Michael Gregory is an actor known for roles in General Hospital, Total Recall, Robocop, Beverly Hills Cop, and an amazing amount of work in television and film. Michael also does a lot of voice work for some of the most popular video games, including Dragon Age, Star Wars The Old Republic, and Call of Duty. But us Leapers know him as Colonel Wojohowitz in the Quantum Leap episode Star-Crossed. Mr. Gregory, it's an absolute honor to talk to you today. How you doing?
As far as I'm concerned, every day is a holiday. We're fortunate to be up and walking around and in gratitude for every little thing.
I love that. That really is the way to live life. It really is.
I love when I say that, and every once in a while somebody says, God, I wish I was you. I said, hey, look around, see how lucky we are.
We are, man. We're only here for a short time. We need to enjoy every bit of it, right?
You got it. You got it, Albie.
You were, of course, Colonel Wojohowitz in the first actual episode after the pilot of Quantum Leap, Star-Crossed, where you played the dad of...
the lovely Terry Hatcher.
Yes. What was that role like for you? How did you get it, and what do you think of it?
Well, again, like all the other actors in Hollywood, I read for it, and actually the best story I have, and let me put it out there, I got the gig, and Deborah Pratt, who wrote the script, on the set came over to tell me, she said, Michael, when you walked in, you look enough like Terry Hatcher and enough like Scott Bakula that I was praying you could act. Because she said it was perfect. And the fact of the matter is that because there is a resemblance with Scott and I, you could see how Terry might be attracted to a father figure type. Anyway, it was a combination, hopefully, of good acting and the fact that I had the right look.
You definitely looked like Terry Hatcher, like could be related almost. What was that role like? I mean, you played her father that was estranged and really didn't want to reunite with her. And did you have like a whole character story built in your mind when you played that?
Yes. Well, the fact is that I was a colonel who was going back into action, and Scott, obviously, as the time traveler, knew that I wasn't coming back. And so basically I had said to him, well, maybe I'll get together with her when I come back. The story of hardships on military families are legion. And again, it was pretty easy to understand how a daughter could be upset not having a father in her life, and also how a father could push that away because I was doing things that perhaps I thought were much more important, like saving the world from communism. And again, we always seem to have a battle as a warrior. It seems that wars have always been with us, and unfortunately, it looks like they always will be. And generally, oracularity, there is a quote about the warrior, but it is about the warrior, and I think that Colonel Wojohowitz was that man. Yeah, it's Heraclitus, if I'm saying it right, and I should know this. I'm Greek. Out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets. 9 are the real fighters, and we're lucky to have them, for they make the battle. But the one is a warrior, and he will bring the others back. And I think that Wojohowitz is that one warrior. Unfortunately for him, in the end story, he doesn't come back, but the good news is he does get to reconcile with his daughter. And it was hard playing the father of somebody as lovely as Terry Hatcher. I definitely had to separate as the father. I think that was one of her earlier roles. And again, it was easy feeling a connection with her as well.
Could you tell when you worked with her that she was going to go places?
Something that's interesting in terms of actors and actresses. I mean, there are people that I started with in this business that just faded away, and we could have pointed to them and say, they're going to be a star. And then there are other people who, not to mention any names, who you said, what are they doing in the business? And they've had wonderful careers. And so you never know. The one that always stands out for me is that great voice for Dodge. Sam Elliott and I were in acting class together, and he was one person that you could point to and say, there's the next Gary Cooper. And unfortunately, Westerns did not come around for a while. And he's stupendous in Westerns. He's stupendous in everything. When We Were Soldiers Once and Young still brings tears to my eyes when I watch it. And again, Sam was one of those people you could point to and say, there's a star. And I've been very fortunate to have worked with a number of those people and a number I've called friends. And I was with Dean Martin for 10 years. And they don't get much bigger than Dean.
I wanted to ask you about that. How did that all come about?
One of my friends was a good friend of Dean and his wife Jeannie at the time. And they needed a security man at the house 2 nights a week. And my friend said, well, you should meet the Major. Major's a nickname. And I said, who's the Major? Well, he's the kind of friend that comes by your house after you go to sleep at night to make sure you lock your doors. And we joke about it, but I turned my native neurosis, my paranoia, into a money-making business. Within a couple of weeks, all the nighttime guards were fired. I worked 7 months a week, 7 nights straight. And I realized that there are a number of ex-military, a number of guys waiting to get on the LAPD who were actors. And this was a perfect job for them, so I started a company called Brownstone America, which provided security for people in the industry. And I was personally with Dean, the family first, and then with Dean up until the beginning of 1980.
Was his private life a lot different than his public persona, or was he pretty much what you saw in public?
Well, people always ask me, does he really drink that much?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was asking.
Yeah, well, I figured. And I would always say, when we go to the golf course, we put an IV in his arm because he can't even hold a glass. And Dean said, Pally, I like that. I spent a lot of money developing this persona for you to screw it up for me. And no, he would have a Heineken's at night. That was his drink of choice at home. And on stage, it was usually tea or something like that. He was not the boozer, and he could not have performed to the degree that he did if he was really knocking him back.
Yeah, very, very entertaining guy. I'm a big fan of the Rat Pack, and Ocean's 11 is one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, well, again, he enjoyed working. A lot of people didn't think that he was going to be a success after he and Jerry split, and it just didn't work out that way. He made it in every field of entertainment available at the time.
You've had a really long career. I took some time to do some research on all of your different roles, and I remember you from a lot of them, like growing up in different TV shows and things. A lot of times you played either police or soldiers or like the heavy. Is there a reason that you tend to get cast in those roles?
Well, again, I mean, the hair is gray now, but at one time it was kind of blue-black when I was on the soap operas. However, when I was on the soap operas, I was one of the first of, I think, the dark-haired heroes. Up until that time, the soap seemed to have a lot of blonde-haired, blue-eyed heroes. And the role of Dr. Rick Weber on the soaps was one of those roles which I didn't usually get because the dark features generally lent themselves to either authoritarian figures, police officers, or, as you said, bad guys. And I was very fortunate to work. The fact of the matter is that we have to take whatever it is we have going for us and use that to get more work. And I was very fortunate to be able to work with, Telly Savalas and Kojak and Richard Roundtree in Shaft. And again, to have worked with some of the wonderful actors and actresses in the business. I mean, that's an education in itself. And now that I'm kind of an elder statesman, I just worked on a film at AFI, And to have people say, well, gee, it's so nice of you to come out and work with us. Hey, it's the opportunity to work and play is a great opportunity. It's like every audition is an opportunity to play. And I feel lucky to still be in the business, not only doing voiceovers in commercials, but still doing occasional films.
You've been in some amazing films that are really part of the pop culture, like one of my favorites of all time, Total Recall. Could you tell me a little bit about Total Recall?
Total Recall was shot in Mexico City. At that time, it was considered a third world country in terms of Rule 1. Screen Actors Guild is now unionized around the world. At that time, it was outside of SAG jurisdiction, and so we were down there in Mexico City. I had a great time. Arnold was fabulous. He let us use his gym. All he said was just put back the weights. He's a guy's guy. I enjoyed working with him. The fact is that in one scene where he runs by me, when Paul Verhoeven, the director, yelled "cut," he said, "Michael shot me," and I dropped to my knees. I said, "Please don't send me home." What happened was he got hit with a round coming out of a shell coming out of the gun as he passed me. I definitely didn't fire it at him, but we worked that out on later shots. Don't fire until he runs past you.
You've watched the film, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
In your opinion, was it a dream or did it really happen? That was always the thing at the time.
I believed it really happened.
All right.
That was my take on it. Of course, what we have in our own heads doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what the writers were thinking. But no, it was very fortunate to have been in the first of the tentpole pictures like Total Recall, Robocop, Beverly Hills Cop. I was very fortunate. And once again, there are a lot of actors in town that could possibly have gotten the roles, and I feel very fortunate that I was the one that got them. It reminds me of a story. Chris Lemmon is a friend of mine, and that's Jack Lemmon's son. And there's a story about Jack after he'd gotten the role, and Mr. Roberts was kind of boasting to his teacher. I can't remember who that was at the time. About the fact that, he got this role. And the teacher said to him, there are 500 other actors in town who could probably have done it as well as you, but you got it. Congratulations. And so I feel very fortunate to have been lucky enough to be able to read for it and also to be able to get the jobs.
Yeah, these are films that like every guy has on their DVD shelf, or should anyway, right?
Yep.
It's pretty amazing. Robocop, what was that like?
Well, again, I tell this story to young actors who are just coming into the business or starting out. It has to do with commitment. I had been given the role. There were actually two roles. There was a SWAT commander and a SWAT captain. The captain worked 3 days, which in those days meant 2-day travel, 1-day work. The commander worked 3 weeks. I called and I asked if I could come in a day early. They said, we're not going to pay for your hotel room at the Hyatt Regency in Dallas, Texas. I said, well, what is your room rate? And they said, we pay $35 a night. I said, I'd like to come in 2 nights early if I might. I came in 2 days early, and Miguel Ferrar, you know who he is. Mm-hmm. And Miguel was a young kid hanging out at Dean Martin's house when I was doing security there. And Miguel said, Michael, I'm meeting with Ed Neumeyer for drinks. Why don't you come meet us? And I sat down there and we had drinks, and Ed said, Paul loved you for both roles. Let me talk to him. The next day, they paid the other actor off, told him to stay home. I got 3 weeks on the film. And so I always tell young actors, if you have the opportunity to get in early, get in early. Don't ever be late, because the difference between 3 days' work and 3 weeks' work was a considerable amount of money to me, and over years, the residuals were probably 5 times that amount.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was obviously one of the classic films of current history.
Everybody's seen it, I think.
Mm-hmm. that was a discussion that I had with Ed Neumeyer that day at the table about they had made Lieutenant Hedgecock kind of a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, he's not a bad guy. He's following orders to save the city. And so I think that may have had something to do with how the script followed in terms of my doing 3 weeks on the film.
There's another show you did that a lot of our listeners seem to have a fondness for, especially when they were children, Voyagers.
Oh, yeah, John Eric Hexum.
I just recently rewatched that series, and you were escorting Cleopatra around New York City.
Right. I played Lucky Luciano. And it was, again, it was one of those wonderful shows. I think it was kind of a precursor to Quantum Leap.
Mm-hmm.
And John Eric Hexum, you want to talk about somebody that you could point to and say, he's going to be a star? There is a guy who is incredibly handsome, had one of those really deep, beautiful voices. It looked like his career was taking off. And we had actually talked on the set about guns. One of the things that I have always appreciated, even as a child of 6 years old, and the fact that he would pick up a blank gun, put it to his head, and pull the trigger, and end his life and career was just unfathomable.
Yeah.
The show was wonderful. I think they only did a series of 6 or 8, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they didn't make a lot of episodes. I want to say like 20 at the most.
And it could have gone on for years. I don't know why it got canceled, but then again, we never know why they get canceled.
Yeah.
Or picked up for that matter sometime.
Yeah, I liked it as a kid because I would think I was the same age as the kid in the TV show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what a great concept.
It was. Around that time, you also did something that I thought was kind of fun. You did the episode of the A-Team with Hulk Hogan and all the wrestlers in it. What was that like?
Well, Hulk, I had said to Hulk that I really enjoyed working with him. He said, this is too much like work. I'd rather wrestle. I make more money doing that. And, of course, he went on to do a couple of the Navy SEALs show with Thunder Alley.
Thunder in
Road,
Paradise, I want to say.
That's it. Yep. You got it. And he did it with Chris Lemon. And a wonderful actress that I work with in Lena's Holiday, Felicity Waterman, who also looked like was going to be one of the stars in the firmament. And I haven't seen her in anything for years. I heard that she has a family in New York. But it was just a wonderful, wonderful actress that went from the film to that TV series, and then I don't know what happened. But we never do. We never do. It's the nice thing about social media is that very often the people that kind of disappeared, you can very often find them again and reconnect and find out what's happening in their lives. Because when we work on a set, you have fast friendships and people that you really enjoy being with. But when the show is over, very often you go your separate ways. And the only time you run into them again is on interviews when, hey, let's get together. Or, like I said, if you see them on a show and you go, oh, man, I wonder how they are. How do I get in touch with them? And yeah, anyway, you asked about Hulk Hogan, and I went off on a tangent.
That's all right. That's all right. That's what we're all about, really.
It was interesting. That was the first time I worked with George Papard. I also worked with him later in a show that had 2 different names: Trouble in the City of Angels and Man Against the Mob. And George was great. One of the older stars of that period, and truly a nice man. Didn't have much to do with Mr. T, but Hulk Hogan, I got to spend a little time with him. Of course, as you know, in the film, he picks me up in the show. He picks me up and throws me.
Yeah.
And
was that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't think it was considered a stunt.
All right.
Sheriff Lobo was another one.
Yeah.
All those shows, right? Because you keep saying when you were a kid. How old are you?
I'm
if you don't mind
39 right now, so I'm the 39. Perfect age where I grew up watching you on every show that was on.
I got it. It was a fun time for me because I decided I wanted to be an actor when I was 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
I was growing up in Brooklyn, New York, and I wanted to be a cowboy. I figured the only way a kid from Brooklyn was going to be a cowboy is if he became an actor. 55 years later, I got to star in my first Western. So there's something to be said for persistence also.
We have a listener that does a MacGyver podcast, so if I didn't ask you about your episode of MacGyver, he'd probably be upset with me. You played a Native American.
Yeah, Chief White Cloud. The funny thing is that I went in and I was the only Caucasian in the room. It was all Native Americans and some Latinos, and Richard Inigus was behind me, and he said, "Don't worry, Michael, just go ahead and read. You're not in competition with us." And I walked in, I said, the last time I read for the casting director, I said, "You brought me in for an Asian man." I said, "Now you're bringing me in. We've got all these Native Americans." She said, "Michael, there's a lot of dialogue. Just read." And fortunately, in those days, coming off the soaps, my facility for memorizing and sprouting dialogue was very good, and I was fortunate to get the role. I had worked with an attached ponytail. My hair was a little bit longer, and I also had a ponytail made. And when I got up to Canada to shoot, the director, Michael Priest, said, "What happened to your hair?" I said, "It's in my suitcase." Oh, good. And of course, MacGyver, Richard Dean Anderson, was my younger brother on the soap operas. When I was Dr. Rick Weber on General Hospital, he was Dr. Jeff Weber.
Oh, wow. So that was a little cool reunion.
Yes, and so that was actually the only time we have worked together since the soaps, and we haven't worked together since then. But his career has been wonderful. He went from one series to the next, and I think he was happy to come back to Los Angeles because working up there in the Canadian cold, I'm sure got old after a number of seasons. But it was wonderful to work with him again. Like I said, he was my younger brother on the soaps. We even shared a dressing room together back in the General Hospital days.
I've mentioned some of my favorites. So what are some of your favorites from your career that you've really enjoyed or something you're really proud of?
It reminds me of one of the old cowboy actors who worked with John Wayne in a number of films. And I asked him, I said, "What percentage of the work are you really proud of?" And he said, "Oh, about 5%, kid." And I was shocked because there is a sense of ownership with all the different jobs, and some are more fun than others. General Hospital, because it was something I could get into for a couple of years. One of the most fun films I had was in South Africa. I did a film called The Tattoo Chase, widely unseen. It supposedly took place on 7 continents, all shot in South Africa. And I only worked 23 days on the film. I was there for over 3 months. I got to travel all over South Africa. Got to meet people. Wherever I go, I get involved with the police and the military on a good level, not a bad level. And I got to hang out with some of the South African Defense Forces. On the other side of that, I got to also hang out with some of the young black activists, the rebels, who are obviously against what was going on with white rule there. And it was quite an education. Again, when you visit another country, you kind of back off on these things, but I always get to, to go to the training facilities for the police, stuff with the military, and it's always been very exciting for me. And so I think that the trip to South Africa was one of the most fabulous things. Aside from that, the fact that for a period of time, I was very recognizable with the different work I was doing, and the amount of good that can come out of being recognized and using that recognition to help other people, that is a gift that those of us in the industry get, and I hope that as long as anybody recognizes me, I can use that to help other people. I think that currently I've been involved with the Stars and Stripes Foundation, which is a military organization for wounded soldiers as well as their families. I'm also involved with Vet Hunters. Vet Hunters was started here in California, and now it's spread out across the country. We go out and find homeless vets and bring them back into the system if we can. It's very exciting because they're in L.A., there are supposedly 50,000 homeless on the streets. A third of them are male and female veterans. And another organization that I support wholeheartedly, if you watched A&E, there's a show called Dogs of War. And James Stanek, who was formerly PTS himself, finds lost and forgotten dogs and puts them together with PTS vets and trains them together for the benefit of both of them. And so I am honored to, hang out with these heroes and to be able to raise funds and bring awareness to the issues. I was just in Vegas a month ago for the SHOT Show with the Stars and Stripes Foundation. I was there with Gary O'Neill, Ranger Hall of Fame, Dick Marcinko, the man who started our SEAL Team 6, Joe Young. Joe was a sniper medic, the only sniper medic on the team of horse soldiers that went into Afghanistan. His horse fell on him, broke his back. He would not let them evacuate him until the mission was finished. Also got to hang out with Al Membry. Al was Easy Company, one of the original band of brothers from World War II. And so for a man like myself who was just a soldier to meet these individuals and to hear their stories and to hang out with them, it is a giant honor for me.
And I'm sure they love hanging out with you and meeting you, and that just probably makes a lot of them feel better.
Again, they know that here's a guy from Hollywood who does appreciate the military, because over the years, Hollywood has very often gotten a reputation for not supporting the troops, which I've never found myself, particularly with people like Joe Mantegna, Gary Sinise, and a large contingent of Hollywood people. But for some reason, it's out there that we don't support the troops, and that's not true at all. That is not true at all.
It's amazing because you don't have to do all that charity work, but you do it just because you think it's the right thing to do, right?
I think it's the right thing to do. Once again, it makes me feel good. The other thing is, if I were younger, the education that I get hanging out with these people would have made for some for wonderful portrayals of other military characters. It's funny because they may have a few drinks and they'll tell their stories, and then when they go to leave, they turn to me and they go, "Michael, kill all the flies." And and so I feel, like I said, I feel very honored. Over the last couple of years, I've gotten to meet 15 Medal of Honor recipients. Guys that started our original Green Berets. I'm like a kid in a candy store. It's really like I said, when I was 5 years old, I said I want to be an actor. It's like being a kid on the block again with hanging out with your heroes.
I will put all the links in our show notes so everybody can check out those different websites for the different charities.
Great. Yeah, it's vethunters.org, starsandstripesfoundation.org, and pawsandstripes.org.
All right. Very cool. Very good. Thank you for doing all that for everybody.
Oh, hey, like I said, I am honored, and they have done so much for us. And at least in today's day and age, they're appreciated and thanked. And hopefully they will all get the benefits that are coming to them, because, like I said, there are so many homeless out there.
Yeah.
And at every degree of a circle, if you're in the center of a circle, there is a charity facing you, and behind them, 20 more waving their hands saying, "Hey, how about us?" And so we pick the ones, and I mentioned the ones I'm most involved with. There are others. And for years, I emceed Desert Thunder, which was a motorcycle event with the San Bernardino Sheriffs that went from San Bernardino to Primm, Nevada.
Oh, wow.
They're still doing that. I think it's in its 17th or 18th year now. I did it for about 12. And then I switched over to the Stars and Stripes Foundation. And, again, it's like, I like talking about it because what happens is most people get caught up in their lives and they don't think about it unless somebody in their family is wounded or somebody in their family gets a specific disease. But hopefully when you're talking to somebody who isn't facing those kind of problems, they hear what I have to say and they go, I didn't know that. Well, what can I do to help? And that's the best part.
Did I read you were involved with NASA somehow, supporting them?
In terms of being involved with NASA, because of my roles in Star Wars: The Old Republic, when we were doing a signing event down in Houston at the time, NASA brought myself, Stephen Stanton, Rick Fitz, and Marshall Teague in. Marshall, as you know, I think you may know. He was on Quantum Leap also. It was one of his first roles. He played a cowboy. But Marshall was the pilot in Armageddon. He is much more involved with NASA down there than I am because he has been he's been in that area much more often than I have. And so they gave us the VIP tour. It was interesting because we had these SWAT guys with us, and I figured they were afraid we were going to steal something or something. They said, no, these guys are for your protection. Well, who's going to get in here and hurt us? But so in terms of NASA, it's another thing that I am honored to be involved. Once again, I mean, these are great honors to meet the astronauts and to be able to talk with them and to see what they went through, and to realize that this is the future. And so in terms of supporting NASA, it's letting people know this is really important, because to think that the Earth is the only home for us, we're running out of space quickly.
Yeah.
And the future is out there, and the people that I have met at NASA are wonderful people. I still keep in touch with them. I'm not involved with them the way I am with the charities, but they know if there's anything that I can do to promote NASA and to promote funding for them so that they can continue their mission without having to rely on Russia or any other country to get to our platforms out there, that I definitely will. So yeah, that's been my involvement with them, aside from voicing some of the characters in Star Wars: The Old Republic.
You have an amazing voice, and you've done a lot of voice work. Do you like doing that? Is it different for you than acting on TV or film?
Well, yeah, the thing with voiceovers, which is most important, is you don't have your facial expressions, you don't have your body. Whatever you're doing is acting with your voice. And so a lot of people think, I've been told my whole life, people say, I have a wonderful voice, I really want to do voiceovers. Well, a voice is a start. At one time, a voice like mine sold all kinds of things on radio and television. Now this guy is selling Lexuses. And so it's wide open to a number of people in terms of books on tape and commercials and voiceovers for the games. But again, I think people don't realize just how much more involved in acting it is, because you don't have the body, the face, and the presence in person to make a character come alive. And so to that extent, it is fun. And to be in a room with 7 other people, the most fun I had was doing one of those radio plays for Adventures in Odyssey. And there are like 7 or 8 people in a room. And when the director says, okay, let's take 5, and across from you is Richard Nixon, standing next to him is John Wayne, Joan Rivers next to him. And so you've got all these voices, and it is just like a magical picnic of characters. And some of the most talented people that I think are unappreciated, because when I say unappreciated, they're not recognized. They're recognized in the industry, but you don't know them on the street because they are super talented. Stephen Stanton, for me, is like he's one of my mentors, and has helped me improve whatever it is I can do in the business. And Stephen does, of course, Commander Tarkin in Clone Wars, among so many other things. And he is a real talent. In fact, when other actors can't come in and do their looping, he very often loops for them. I can't mention any names, but yeah, he's got a magic set of pipes and a personality to go with it. He is very sharing.
I love those radio plays. I'll have to check that out. You also did a Star Wars one, right?
There's so many that unless I write them down, I don't remember the characters. I don't remember and unless I play the game, I'm not even sure when they say, well, you did so-and-so. I did. Yeah, it says right here. Oh, okay. And then recently somebody had gone in and went through some of the old anime stuff and said, hey, you weren't credited for this. You did this voice. And so, in those days I wasn't writing down the voices. Basically, they wanted this guy. And so it's translating the Japanese into, yes, okay, move it. And so I did not think of it as quite the art that I realized it is. It was just a matter of using my voice because they like my voice.
Does the voice acting give you a whole new generation of fans that come to the conventions to see you just because you were in Star Wars Old Republic and other projects?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have pictures of some of those things. I think I sent you a picture from Quantum Leap of Colonel Wojohowitz. I have pictures from all those different years. Again, currently the games are the biggest thing. I worked in Defense of the Ancients. I did Call of Duty, Black Ops, and again, the fans that are into the games are seemingly more into fandom than any of the people who were involved with some of the earlier shows, Quantum Leap not included.
Do you get recognized a lot for different things you've done, like Quantum Leap or, of course, Total Recall or Robocop?
Yes, the fact of the matter is that a lot of those jobs were done back in the 80s and early 90s. So we're going back 20 years. I am that many years older. And so not the young stud muffin that was on General Hospital, but still I'm amazed. Another story, I went through SWAT survival with the LAPD back in the 70s when I was on General Hospital because I owned a bodyguard company, as I said at the time. And the sergeant in charge, Sergeant Slonsky, said, don't tell them anything. And they're asking me, did you graduate the academy in 74? No. You with Internal Affairs? No. The end of the weekend, the SWAT sergeant says, that's Dr. Rick Weber from General Hospital. All these macho SWAT cops come running up to find out what's happening with Monica's baby. So it was my first group of closet watchers, people you don't expect to be watching them, postmen, bartenders, firemen, SWAT officers. And so to that extent, I'm amazed because, I look in the mirror and I don't see the guy on Quantum Leap. I'm still there, but there is an older me there. And so when they come up and they say, oh, I remember you from so-and-so, it really kind of surprises me. I still carry prescription forms in my car from General Hospital. And somebody says, could you sign this? I say, I got something better.
Oh, awesome.
So, still recognized at times. And sometimes people even recognize the voice. They say, are you the guy from, how did you get that? Well, I was just playing the game.
Yeah, and people that play them, I'm not good at it myself. Sometimes I'll watch people play them, but they play them for hours and days. So I think your voice would be ingrained in their brain. Yeah,
it's amazing. And what is also amazing is films from, like I said, 20, 25 years ago, even longer. People come up to me and do the lines from the film. Robocop, Beverly Hills Cop, it happens all the time, and I'm always kind of amazed.
For our listeners that don't know, is there any way you can explain to them why you say every day is a holiday?
Over the years, going back to the 70s, there was a friend of mine who was just one of the most physically active people you could ever meet. She was doing the Mobius flips, the skiing back before things really got crazy in the world with skateboards and things. Her name is Heidi von Beltz. Heidi was a stunt woman who was made a quadriplegic while shooting Cannonball Run. There was an accident on the set. She was thrown from the car, fifth cervical burst, and she was made a quadriplegic. She is still with us, and to this day is sure that one day she will walk. And we live in an amazing time in the history of the world. I am hoping, and praying that comes to fruition. But I became the vice president of our organization, the Follow Your Heart Foundation. Later on, I was involved with the Lone Star Classic in Texas. It's a golf tournament that was started over a man named Kent Waltrip, who was playing football at TCU, went up in the air, came down on his head, fifth cervical burst, also a quadriplegic. He's been much more successful in moving. He can drive a car. He and his wife have had children. But again, having dealt with the Follow Your Heart Foundation, having met over the years quadriplegics, paraplegics, the young soldiers with missing limbs, all I can do is look to the sky and say, thank you, Lord. I don't know what I did, but thank you for all I have. And it's like every day is a holiday. And as I said, I'm in gratitude for every little thing. It's like I was in the shower and I turned my wife says, have you got your phone in the shower? I said, what are you, crazy? She said, who are you talking to? I said, honey, I turned the spigot. There was water. It was hot. I was thanking God. She said, that's why I love you. And so it is just every day is a holiday. And in fact, I say it so often when I meet people and friends, when they say, hey, how you doing? Never mind, I know. Every day is a holiday. And so it's some of the guys at the gym call me Mr. Holiday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And again, just feel so fortunate. So fortunate.
Going back to Quantum Leap, is there anything you can share, any memories you have of the show that our listeners might find funny or fascinating?
Actually, the most fun I think I had was after we finished shooting, and they threw a Christmas party, and they invited us all to go bowling. So you got to get together with all the people that you would work with before. That was fun. The story that still blows me away is the one about Deborah Pratt saying, God, I was praying you could act. Again, I just feel very fortunate to have been in a show that still has the popularity that it has. The fact that you're doing this podcast, and the fact that a couple of years ago I did a thing at the Beverly Garland Hotel here in town, where they had all the quantum leapers from all over the world come. And we did a couple of, they were doing sessions all day with all the different members of the cast and crew and all the actors that had been on the show. And so to have been a part of this, and once again, some of the big films that I've done, it's just, it's a legacy. And it doesn't compare, I think, with hopefully the legacy I can leave with helping troops and vets. But it is a legacy and something I'm so happy that at the age of 5, I decided what I was going to do with my life.